In a matter of weeks, the Zika virus spreading through the Americas has gone from a concern to an all-out global crisis. In fact, the World Health Organization recently declared it a public health emergency of international concern, which will bring more money and resources to fight it. Health officials are investigating a potential link between the mosquito-borne disease and hundreds, perhaps even thousands of babies born with abnormally small heads. There is no cure, no vaccine, and each day it seems the warnings are getting worse. We checked in with our correspondents across the region to see what's being done to control the virus. This is what they found.
The World Health Organization said that this virus is expected to spread right across the Americas. Now, here in the southern cone in Argentina, the country is already on red alert because of a dengue fever outbreak in the north of the country, in the province of Misiones, where the number of cases is already in the thousands. It's enough to make the Ministry of Health already declare what is an epidemic, and they're working hard to ensure that it does not spread further across the country. That includes in urban areas such as here in Buenos Aires, fumigating in parks where the lush vegetation and the fresh still water are perfect breeding grounds for the mosquitoes, because it's worth bearing in mind that it's the same mosquitoes that carry dengue fever as that carry the Zika virus.
The Zika virus has only recently arrived in Brazil, but the Aedes aegypti mosquito is a node problem here. So actions like this, having health inspectors going from house to house to check for breeding sites and fumigating the most critical areas, are nothing new here, but they have been stepped up this year. However, there are questions over the efficiency of the strategies, as they have been going on for many years. And just in 2015, Brazil had record numbers of dengue fever notifications. A task force of scientists has been created to try and understand the disease and come up with treatments and a vaccine, but these are all longer-term projects. For now, the only course of action is fighting the mosquito and advising pregnant women to do all they can to avoid being bitten. But it's not certain that it's working, as a number of reported cases of infection and of microcephaly are still growing.
The Colombian government says they expect up to 700,000 cases of the Zika virus at the height of the epidemic. So Colombia was one of the first countries in Latin America to suggest that women postpone their pregnancies 6 to 8 months in order to avoid any children being born with microcephaly. Now, activists are saying that this is not just controversial, but unrealistic. They're pointing out statistics that show that in Latin America, more than half of pregnancies are not planned. So they're saying the focus needs to be on sexual education and on contraceptive use. Now, the Ministry of Commerce and Tourism has said that if you are not pregnant and you're going to travel to these regions, you should wear a lot of repellent and long-sleeve clothing.
According to the Health Ministry, no cases of the Zika virus have been reported in Cuba so far, but nobody expects that to last. The Aedes aegypti mosquito is prevalent in Cuba, and dengue fever is endemic on the island. The government has had a nationwide anti-mosquito campaign for several years now. Every municipality in the country is responsible for organizing inspections of homes and workplaces to identify and help eliminate mosquito breeding grounds. There are also nationwide fumigation brigades, often made up of army conscripts. It is helping to contain the problem, but not eliminate it. And the authorities here believe it's only a matter of time before Zika appears in Cuba.
Well, here in Venezuela, the Zika virus is most definitely present, as is the microcephaly birth disorder with which it has been associated. And in fact, Venezuela is seen as particularly vulnerable for a worsening of this situation. Why? Well, there are really three reasons why. One, you may well be aware that this is a country in the midst of a very serious economic downturn. There are shortages of most things, and that includes insect repellent. You don't really see that in the shops here, and if you do, its price is beyond the reach of most ordinary Venezuelans. Also, there's a similar shortage of contraceptives, and with many women across this region being asked to consider putting off getting pregnant, that is an additional complication. And finally, Venezuela is a country where the running water situation is also in crisis. You may ask, why is that connected? Well, because people can't switch on a tap and get running water, they therefore store water, and that means there are storage places that are also breeding grounds for mosquitoes right across Venezuela. So multiple challenges this country is facing as it confronts this very serious health problem.
After merely 1 week since the first positive Zika case was diagnosed in Nicaragua, the number has been on the rise. The government assures that they are doing everything possible in order to help control the outbreak. Fumigations in local neighborhoods are quite common in Managua, the capital, seeing as they are also battling against other diseases that are also transmitted by the same mosquito. The government is looking at the possibility of using a bacteria called Bt in order to help control the larvae. The governments of Honduras, El Salvador, and Nicaragua are asking the local population to make sure they have no stagnant water deposits nearby their homes, also to help control the larvae. In El Salvador, other extreme measures have been taken, asking local women to not get pregnant until the year 2018.
Peru is bracing itself for the mosquito-borne virus Zika after the first confirmed case of the disease. A Venezuelan man who lives in Peru was infected when he traveled to Colombia, and Peru's health minister says they're expecting similar cases in the coming days and weeks. Meanwhile, Peru, which shares its borders with Ecuador, Brazil and Colombia, is boosting border protection and taking preventative measures such as fumigations to eradicate the mosquito. Now, the Aedes aegypti mosquito, which is the vector for Zika, is present in 19 of Peru's 24 states. And now that type of mosquito is already responsible for 180 cases of chikungunya and many more cases of dengue fever last year. Peru is trying to combat this growing threat by raising awareness through public education campaigns. But adding to the state of alert is the El Niño phenomenon, which is expected will cause heavy rains and flooding in coming weeks and months, particularly in the coastal regions, which could create the ideal conditions for this mosquito to breed.
A look at Zika in the Americas.